السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وخليله وصفيه وأمينه على وحيه ومصطفاه من خلقه. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح لهذه الأمة وجاهد في الله تعالى حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين وتوفاه الله وحتى لحق بالرفيق الأعلى. فترك أمته على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. فما من خير إلا دل الأمة عليه وحثهم عليه وأرشدهم إليه. وما من شر ورذيلة وضرر إلا حذرهم منه ونهاهم عنه. صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. My dear, my esteemed, my noble, my prestigious, my beautiful brothers and sisters in Al-Islam, regardless of your background, regardless of your social standing, regardless of how much I know you or how little I know you, I would like to give you some advice today after I give myself that same exact advice. And it is Quranic advice. It is advice that was given to us by the creator of us, the one who knows us better, the one who made us, the one who knows our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions before, if and when we say them and utter what we feel in our hearts, in our chest, and in our breast, and in our minds. And this Quranic advice Allah mentions more than one time in His glorious book. In the 4th chapter, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu khudhu hidrakum. O you who believe, O faithful, O Muslims, O believers, khudhu hidrakum. Take your precaution. Take your precaution. Wa khudhu hidrakum. And Allah also says, and take your precaution once more. So the Quranic guidance is for the Muslim never ever to be asleep and to be in a state of slumber and to let his guard down. He's not supposed to lunch. He's not supposed to just be in a state of heedlessness. He's not supposed to just be wandering around blindly, idly. But he or she is always supposed to be there mentally. And from being there mentally is taking your precaution. Against what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, He says, take your precaution. Against whom? From your enemies, your physical enemies? What or whom or what am I taking my precaution from? Am I ensuring and protecting myself from? Of course, the greatest thing that you can lose and the greatest enemy that you have and the biggest thing for which you need to be covered and insured is your soul. And after your soul is your mind. And after your mind, it's one's physical well-being. 3 things: soul, mind, health. Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, that great imam, he said, Ya ibn Adama, innaka taghdu wa taruhu fi talab al-arbah, wal yakun hammuka nafsaka, fa innaka lan tarbaha mithlaha abadan. O son of Adam, O man, innaka taghdu wa taruhu. You wake up early in the morning, you go home late at night, fi talab al-arbah, seeking money, seeking profit, ways of making money, maximizing the money that you make, saving the money that you make, spending the money that you make, investing the money that you make, and most importantly, protecting the money that you make from people who have ill intentions, people who wish to steal, take your money, usurp your money, people who will waste your money, people who won't value your money, even if that person is the closest one to you, like your son or your wife or your husband, someone that has the same blood as you. You know that they don't value money, they don't respect money. You do what? You take your precaution. You don't leave that money out in the open. You don't leave your business in the hands of someone who's irresponsible. So Hassan al-Basri says, O son of Adam, when you wake up in the morning, before and afternoon, when you go home at night, the thing that's on your mind is money. Money on my mind, making money. That's how it is. Everybody's thinking about, what can I earn today? What can I save today? What can I spend today? What can I buy today? What can I invest today? How many questions are there about Bitcoin? Bitcoin. People, they want to make money. That's natural. وَإِنَّهُ, Allah says, and about man, لِهُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ, is that man has a strong passion for khair, for goodness. And what's meant by goodness is money. وَلْيَكُنْ هَمُّكَ نَفْسَكَ. He says, but the biggest thing on your mind, the greatest thing on your mind, the biggest and the largest of your goals, the most important thing for you to be on the lookout for against losing is your own nafs. And that's because you can never gain something like your soul. And he also said indirectly, you can never lose something like your soul. And this is why Allah the Mighty and the Most High tells us in many verses in the Quran, الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ, those who have lost their souls. They have lost themselves. Those people, نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ, they forgot about Allah, and as a punishment, and as a consequence, as a repercussion of forgetting about Allah in this world, is that Allah causes them to forget about their own selves, their own souls. So the greatest thing to be cautious against losing and damaging is your soul. And there are so many things that will cause your soul to become dirty, that will cause your soul to be impure, unclean, and defiled, permanently or temporarily. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. And there are other things which a person may do or perform or say, or people that he's around, in which he loses his soul perpetually. And he's lost, there's no coming back. So the Muslim, being careful, taking his precaution, looking out, keeping a sharp eye, keeping your eyes peeled, the first rule of the streets, wherever you live. It doesn't matter what hood or ghetto or projects that you come from, Detroit, Philly, New York, Chicago, Queens, Brooklyn, wherever you go, Miami, West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. Anyone that's from the streets, he'll tell you, is to keep your eyes and your ears open at all times. Black, white, yellow, green, purple. That's a rule. And the moment you close your eyes, the moment you sleep, the moment you lunch, the moment that you lay your guard down, the moment that you think it's okay, somebody gets you. And you become a victim, which is crime. Criminals robbing innocent people every time. So the Muslim, he is not supposed to lower his guard with many things. But the greatest and the most important of those things is taking precaution against your own nafs, your soul. That's number one. And secondly is one's mind. The Muslim is to be careful from anything that he watches, or listens to, or drinks, or eats, or smokes, or inhales, or snorts, or injects, or rubs on his skin, or touches, or feels that will cause him to lose his mind. And this is one of the greatest dangers when it comes to drugs, intoxicants, and narcotics, is that it is a pathway to losing your mind. But for thousands of years, if not longer, people of all different races and cultures, they've attempted to become intoxicated. And they intentionally wanted to lose their minds, but only temporarily. If you look at the history of drugs, drugs were used by holy men, by sacred men, by shamans, people that wanted to come in contact with spirits, with gods. And they would eat certain things and drink certain things that would take them to that higher state. They would escape reality, quote unquote. And today you have someone that wants to take a drug, that wants to smoke or drink or inject something, not for spirituality, not for religion, not to contact a spirit or an ancestor or a god or a goddess, but to take my mind off of my problems, my stress, my worries, the horrors of life, the things that took place and happened to me in this world. And then there are others, a third category of people, that they only want to smoke, they only want to drink, they only want to watch things and listen to things because they just want to escape reality, because it's fun. And it may be fun, and it may feel good, but the problem with that is you may leave without the ability of having the ability to come back. You may escape reality because it's fun and it feels good, but you may become lost in the void in which there's no coming back to reality. So how many people lost their minds because of a drug, or because of a drink, or because of a pill, or because of something that they saw, or something that they watched, or something they were exposed to? So the Muslim is to be careful with regards to losing his mind, and losing his sanity, and losing the clarity of thought. And there are so many things, public and private, disguised and plain, which cause you to lose your mind. Temporarily, permanently, partially, or fully. So the Muslim is to avoid anything or any person that is going to lead to the destruction and the ruin of his soul and then his mind. And the mind and the soul, they are connected. There's a connection between your brain and your heart. They go together, they go hand in hand. And in most cases, when one is weak, the other becomes weak. And in most cases, when one is lost, the other one oftentimes becomes lost. So be careful, brothers. Khudhu hidrakum, Allah says, take your precaution against anyone, against anything, against any person, against any act which will violate and which will injure you and puncture your soul and your mind. أقول ما سمعتم وأستغفر الله تعالى لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة الله وسلامه على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Last but not least is taking precaution with regards to your physical body, the crude flesh. Not the soul, not the spirit, not the internal, not the insides, but the actual bone and tendon, the cartilage, the muscle, the skin, the physical flesh. The Quran says, take your precaution. Beware and be careful of anything or anyone that will damage, that will harm, that will ruin, that will take away your physical well-being. And from that, brothers and sisters in Islam, is the pandemic that we are living in and going through. From that is the first wave, the second wave, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth variant, and dose, and booster, and vaccination, etc. The shutdown of the world, the epic, phenomenal, and unprecedented images of downtown Manhattan being a ghost town. No cars, no cabs, no street peddlers, no hustlers, no tourists, no visitors, nothing. Look at those images and reflect upon them. This blizzard, this drought, this tornado, whatever hurricane, whatever natural disaster, quote unquote, this depression. Was there a time in which the streets of Manhattan were empty and you could drive from one state through New York City in 30 minutes? The George Washington Bridge, the White Stone Bridge, the Verrazano Narrow, all of those different bridges. How long does it take when it's rush hour traffic? Not an accident, someone on the side of the road with the paramedics. No, they're doing road work. You ever been stuck in traffic for 3 hours before in Staten Island? 4 hours? Inching, crawling, stopping and going, stopping and going, stopping and going. Frustrated in traffic, and then you see it was nothing but a truck on the side of the road with its blinkers on. But there was a time in which you could drive through New York City, sleep. No cars, no traffic. That's unprecedented. And there's a lesson behind that. And one of the reasons why that took place and why that happened and why things are happening today is because people don't take their precaution. Before, COVID is going to kill me. I have to stay away from everything. Money, work, school, church, mosque, anything and everything. And then the moment they said, it's okay now, it's going away, people have become vaccinated, what did the people do? They went right back to their reckless behavior. They went back to their parties. Rather, they were doing their parties, but now New Year's, right? What are people going to do? How crowded are the streets going to be? How packed will they be? How much money are you going to make as an Uber or Lyft driver this weekend? A taxi cab driver, how much money? You may make enough money in 6 months and 1 night, 2 nights, because the people, they don't take their precaution. And a Muslim is supposed to be wary of illnesses, of diseases, of sicknesses, of infections, of bacteria, before, during, and after. The Muslim is mindful and he knows that there is a such thing as sickness. People do get sick. People do die. And there is a such thing as something being passed on to another human being. That's a reality. So be precautious and don't become aware of your health only during the time of the pandemic. Don't be mindful of your health only during the time in which people are getting sick. And we know that it's a fact. The only people that can appreciate something truly and value that thing are those that never had it and then they received it, or those who had it and it was taken away from them. Listen carefully now. We have 3 levels. There's someone who never had a thing that he wanted or needed. And a very long period of time went by in his life. And he had to suffer and sacrifice and struggle without that thing. And the moment that he got that thing, he cherished it because he knew what it meant not to have that thing. Level number 2, phase 2, tier 2, category number 2 are those who had a thing all the time or after 20, 30, 40 years or generations. And they had it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. And then that thing was snatched from them. It was taken from them. They lost it. They appreciate it more and truly when it's gone. And stage 3, phase 3, tier 3, category 3 are those who never had a thing, or they had a thing, but they never ever lost out on that thing. All 3, they cannot appreciate the thing 100%. You don't know a thing until that thing is taken away from you, and from that is health. When you're young, what do? You wake up early in the morning. You stay up all day. You go to sleep late at night. You eat what you want, drink what you want, do what you want to do. Your digestive system, no problem. Your skin, your muscle, your bones, your joints, your tendons, no problem. It doesn't matter what you eat, how much sugar, carbohydrates, it doesn't matter. You're young, you have fun. But when you get older, your liver, your kidney, your intestinal, your this, that, this tract, this thing, it's a different story now. Now you have to be mindful of what you eat. You have to be mindful of when you go to sleep. You have to be mindful of how long you sit down. You have to be mindful of how long you can travel before going to the rest stop and relieving yourself, etc. So you don't know the value of health until the health is snatched away from you, taken away from you. And the same applies to one's freedom. You don't value your freedom until that freedom is truly taken away from you. And you're not free to do what you want. And this is a big problem that people have with the pandemic. Forcing people to give vaccinations, they say, is a violation upon our freedom. This is America. We fought for our freedom. No one can take it away from us. You can't tell me that I have to do something. And then there are those who lobby for it, and then there are those who lobby against it. But the people who never struggled, who never fought, who never went through any hardships, they don't know what freedom is. You don't know what a blessing that you have. You don't know what the values that you have here in this country. You don't know what it means to go outside, to come back at your own free will. You don't know what that means. And the same applies to other things in the religion and outside of the religion. As Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is quoted to have said, إِنَّمَا يَنْقُضُ عُرَى الْإِسْلَامِ عُرْبَةٌ عُرْوَةٌ إِذَا نَشَأَ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ مَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفِ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. The things that would destroy Islam, that would tear Islam apart, fabric by fabric, piece by piece, twine, rope, thread by thread, as a young man who's raised up as a Muslim and he knows nothing about kufr. He knows nothing about shirk. He knows nothing about before Islam. The only thing he knows is light. So he can never, ever truly appreciate the light until there's darkness. And there's so many other examples of this, brothers and sisters, if we were to wake up and if we were to think about it. You talk about this country and its history, and the history of black people in this country. There was a time in which you couldn't read. And if you were caught reading, you were punished severely for thinking about picking up a book. But how many people today, black and other than black, go to the library and pick up a book? How many people make fun of people who read and who study? Do you know what it means to have the ability to get an education for free, to go to the library and pick up any book that you want and become lost in a storybook or a novel or a dictionary or encyclopedia? Read for hours. There was a time in which this was a liberty. Rather, if you want to go deeper than that, if you want to cut deeper than that to the bone, through the bone, there was a time in this country in which people besides black slaves could not read. They were allowed to read, but illiteracy was widespread. And it was only the noble, aristocratic, autocratic people that had access to books. And the average person woke up in the morning as a farmer and went to sleep as a farmer. There was no education. There was no reading. There was no do what you want to do. You don't value these blessings until they're taken away. And from that is your health. So the message, the reminder, brothers and sisters, is nothing more than one. And that is, khudhu hidrakum. Take your precaution. Don't be slacked. Don't be laxed. Don't just be walking around idly. Value Allah's blessings before they're taken away. Never let your guard down. Take care of your soul. Take care of your mind. And take care of your physical health from COVID and from other than COVID. And never ever allow yourself to get caught up in the cliche. Because there are many illnesses and sicknesses that can kill you and damage and ruin your health. There was a story. There was a man once who wanted to go get a test, a STI or STD screening. And he wanted to get a test for HIV and for AIDS. So the story goes as that as the lady was about to do his blood work and look into his antibodies or whatever the case may be, he was sweating. He was nervous. He was shaking. And he said, I'm scared. I think I may have HIV. I think I may have AIDS. So the lady asked him, do you use intravenous needles? Do you have risky sexual encounters? So on and so forth, unprotected sex, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, he had to answer yes with a few of those questions. And the lady, she told him, she says, don't worry, relax. Hopefully you don't have it, but don't you know that diabetes is more dangerous than HIV? Don't you know that this illness kills you faster than HIV? Don't you know that the pills that they offer for this are more effective than the pills that people offer for other illnesses and sicknesses? But in one's mind, the cliche is AIDS, HIV, I'm going to die. And there's 50 other illnesses, diseases, hereditary, things that you can catch, things that you can acquire that will kill you and ruin you faster. But the people, they only focus on one thing. And the same applies to COVID-19. You should be clean anyhow. You should be mindful of washing your hands anyway. You should wash your hands when you come from the bathroom anyway. You shouldn't be mixing with anybody anyway. There's infection, there are germs wherever you go. You just don't say, I'm going to defend myself against what? One enemy. No warrior says that on the battlefield. Only one person is going to kill me. And there's only one way for me to die. There are many ways for a person to bleed. Many ways. So be careful, brothers and sisters. Don't become slack. Don't give up. Don't let your guard up. Don't think that everything's over and everything is past. Protect yourselves, whether that's a mask or other than a mask, whatever you see fit. That's the point, is don't let your guard down, because there are reckless people who let their guards down. Take your precaution. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all illnesses and diseases. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all infections and bacteria. And we ask Allah azza wa jal, if and when we become sick and ill, to make it a purification for us. And we ask Allah azza wa jal, if it, or when He takes our souls, to take them in the state of Islam. And allow us to have husnul khatim, a good ending upon La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Wa subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamu ala mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.